I'm thankful that I'm not.
Oh, you just can't help yourself, can you, huh?
I don't help anyone.
Huh.
Unless they've got the cash.
Yeah, I'm going to help you out the door if you don't stop.
If you can fit
Anyway,
through
folks,
it.
I'm going to knock you out.
Excuse me, but, is anyone going to introduce me, bro?
All right. And this is Vince Russo.
I thought it was the mailman.
Huh. Why don't you be serious?
Smells like one.
Well, what the frig, bro?
All right, enough. Folks, coming up in just a short is a podcast hosted by two guys you've never heard of and probably never will.
Monsoon knows a guy who knows a guy, if you know what I'm saying.
I get it.
Oh, will you stop? Folks, Chris and George or something. They do the Hot Tag podcast, and here it is.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Hot Tag Wrestling Show. I'm Chris Francisco. George Rogers, Johnny B. Blood is here. George, what's going on, man? How are you?
Chris, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I completely forgot that, and I just thought about this as we hit record or live. By the way, we are live on Facebook, our YouTube channel, Hot Tag Wrestling Show, Twitter, my Twitter, which you can see right here, my handle at ChrisCFriend3, and introducing StreamYard just did this today. We can now stream live on Instagram. So we are also live on Instagram on my Instagram handle at ChrisTFriend3. I try to make it as easy as possible for y'all. So we are here, and we are here today to talk about. Thank you very much to Potsy. Potsy, get me your YouTube channel and put it here so I can share it for everybody. Darren's one of my long time friends and a massive wrestling fan. So we're here tonight to talk about a very historic pay-per-view, and it's one of the few things that it's like only happened one time in like wrestling history. Thank God, Katie Vick was a one-time thing.
How dare you?
Big Boss Man getting, hung from a cage, a cell. That was a one-time thing. And I don't know why I brought up those two examples, but nonetheless, I'm here. We are covering Armageddon from the year 2000, 23 years ago, almost to the day. This happened December 10th, way back in 2000. George, what were you doing on December 10th in 2000?
December 10th, 2000. I remember it well. No, I don't.
Okay. Did you watch?
I was 15, so chances are I was deciding which of the three gaming consoles I owned at that time I was going to play.
Oh, okay. You weren't out smoking that shit?
How dare you? Didn't do that until I became an adult.
Oh, unbelievable. Pansy. Again, this pay-per-view is famous. The main event was historic because it was the one and only 6-man Hell in a Cell match in WWE history for the WWE Championship. The incumbent champ was Kurt Angle. Since WWF introduced the Elimination Chamber match with 6 participants in that match 2 years later, it's unlikely that we'll ever see a 6-man, Hell in a Cell match ever again, which makes this pay-per-view maybe one of the most unique in wrestling history because, one, sans Rikishi, the friggin' star power inside that cell will never, ever be matched again. George, your thoughts on, Armageddon 2000 hosting something we will probably never see again.
We can say sans Rikishi all we want, but we both know how over he was in 2000.
As a heel, oh yeah. I mean, it helps when it came out that they're billing him to go up against the Golden Goose.
Well, no, I don't mean as a heel. I mean just in general.
Too cool.
He's coming out and he's doing the stink face to everybody. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like when he was coming out and he was just doing like the stink face. Plus, I remember earlier that year, he had a hell of a cage match against Val Venus for the Intercontinental title where he jumped off the cage.
He did, yes.
And that's on the Val Venus. So, I mean, Rikishi was on his way up. So you're talking about star power. I mean, yeah, it was there. But yeah, I mean, this was a match that we never saw them even attempt again. I think the closest we got to this was that, notwithstanding the Elimination Chamber, but probably it was a Hell in a Cell match, DX against the McMahons and Big Show. That's like the most
Hmm.
you've had, or that's like the last time you've had that amount of people inside a Hell in a Cell.
Right.
But probably the reason why they don't do it anymore is because of the Elimination Chamber.
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, that's most likely it. I'm trying to find the buy rates for this pay-per-view. All right, got it. So this happened December 10th, 2000. 465,000 worldwide buys, 450 of those domestically here in the United States with a 1.15 buy rate. Look, it was up 65,000 pay-per-view buys from the Survivor Series of 2000. So that's not bad. And then you got the very next month, January, it goes up all the way to 630,000 buys for the Rumble, leading towards one of the biggest, if not the biggest WrestleMania of all time, WrestleMania 17. But this was awesome, man. Like, I probably watched this match itself. We're going to talk about obviously the whole pay-per-view, but I probably watched this match at least 3, 4, 5 times a year. And I don't know why I'm drawn to it. I think it's the fact that I get to see Undertaker, Triple H, Stone Cold, The Rock, Kurt Angle, like literally in the same ring inside a Hell in a Cell. And it's just, the match is a cluster F, but it's like for some reason I'm still drawn to watching this cluster happen. Is this a match that you watch maybe once or twice a year, George?
At some point, yeah, it tends to pop up. Whether I search for it on Peacock or it just kind of comes up, on Instagram Reels or on YouTube suggestions. It's always just kind of pops up every now and again. You have people talking like, "Oh, they don't do matches like this anymore." It's like, yeah, they do. They're just
Yeah.
not called this.
Right. And
This chamber or it's war games or something like they do matches like this all the time. It's just now they've got it refined to a point to where it's not as much of a clusterfuck.
right. So, and also next, this is worth mentioning is, we're about a month or two removed from the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin to the company. What was your thoughts, George, on the return of Austin, the timing of it, and them kind of, pitting him against Rikishi in a way?
I was hyped. I was so hyped
Okay.
for it. I mean, Austin was gone for the better part of a year.
Yeah. Mhm.
Notwithstanding some appearances here and there, but like now he's back. He's in the ring full time. I mean, he's going against Rikishi, but it it was like they were everything just kind of fell together at just the right time.
Yeah.
Austin was back just in time. Like Rikishi's, he's ascending in popularity, and then a heel turn, just made him even more hateable. Rock is still riding high. Triple H riding high. Kurt Angle, the champion, who just won this title 2 months prior. I mean, these are all
Mhm.
top level guys. And they're like, all
Right.
right, let's just get them all in the same match. See what happens.
Absolutely. That's kind of where I was. Look, I wasn't thrilled that Rikishi was the guy, and I don't understand. I don't understand why Rikishi was the choice. Do you remember in your head? Can you maybe think back why it was Rikishi and not just have booked it as Triple H? Why wouldn't you have just gone straight and build that? Were they looking for something quick because they knew the goal was Rock and Austin?
Are you talking storyline wise or what they were probably thinking backstage?
Well, I don't know what they were thinking backstage, but I'm thinking like storyline wise, why Rikishi?
Storyline
'Cause I-
wise, it was because the storyline wise, Rikishi took out Austin to make room for The Rock at the top because he even said during a promo, which go if you get the chance, just kind of go back and watch that promo. That was a I mean, I won't say the best promo of Rikishi's career because clearly it is. The dude didn't have much time on the stick,
yeah,
but it's just a great promo all around where he goes back in history. How like the WWF would always let the Island Boys play, but always kept them held down. So
yeah,
he felt that if he took out the top star, The Rock would then ascend and hit the heights that his other Samoan family members could never hit because they were, always held down by the man. So
hmm
that was the storyline reason for it. if I had to take a guess as to why they went with Rikishi over Triple H, shock value. Give the,
I guess
we
it's a
always
swerve, bro.
we always say how it's a shame that wrestling is so predictable nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, using Triple H would have been the predictable answer. Like, oh, it's Triple H, like blah blah blah. Once you find out, it's like, it kind of takes you out of the story. But Triple H is named innocent. Well, who else? Like, who the hell else could this be?
Mm-hmm.
It generates interest to keep this storyline going for a year, where every week, Mick Foley's trying to figure out, who is the driver, and this person has evidence against this person, or they're this and the other. It makes for entertaining TV, keeps you coming back. If they just tell us, oh yeah, it was Triple H, then who cares? What's the purpose of Austin coming back? Just face Triple H? We know it's going to happen anyway.
So I understand that. So let me kind of clarify my take on this. Back in 2000, I'm putting myself in 14-year-old Chris's brain here, because let's see, I had just turned 14 like 10 days prior. So my 14-year-old self was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't expect anything. I had no expectations of Rikishi. I had thought maybe in my head, maybe they're turning The Rock back to being a heel because now you got the number one babyface back. So let's turn The Rock back to a heel because he's one of the best heels of all time. 23 years later, Chris, I'm thinking, man, I really think it kind of lacked, because it's not like when Austin came back, Rikishi didn't get a chance to really get anything in at all. It was more or less like a complete and utter squash. It was one match with Rikishi, and then it was going on to the next. So I felt like if you would have done it with a heel Rock or maybe a heel Triple H, you probably would have gotten multiple pay-per-views out of it, right? I mean, am I wrong?
We still got some good pay-per-view matches between Triple H.
You got
Stone
you
Cold
got
and
the Survivor
Andy.
Series match with Triple H, which was, I watched that all the time. But I just felt like they just picked Triple H. They picked Rikishi on a whim, maybe because they were looking to get him into something as another heel, because they probably needed a heel at the time. And I feel like they just took Rikishi and plopped him in, and then you have the squash match with these two going up against each other, and then that's it. They move on to the next. I just felt like it was just thrown together.
It was an attempt to make a bigger star out of somebody who was already on the rise. That's a good point.
That's the point. Yeah.
We always, it's one thing that we always talk about how, they don't know how to create new stars. Well, this was an attempt at them creating a new star. Problem is, Rikishi was so over as a face that nobody accepted him as a heel. Right. That's why we can look back on it now with the benefit of hindsight in 2023 and be like, this didn't land well. But 23 years ago,
right,
we're sitting there like, oh my God, I can't believe it was Rikishi.
Right. That's a good point.
Little things like that. Like nobody would have suspected him at all, considering how popular he was, all the dancing, everything was too cool. Nobody predicted it was Rikishi. And if you're saying you did predict it was Rikishi, you're a fucking liar, and I'm calling you out on it now, because nobody saw that coming.
I agree. Obviously, I'm going to agree with you on that one. All right, so let's get into this. This is why we're here. We're here to talk about Armageddon. So this, was the last pay-per-view in a year that was just dominated, George, dominated by The Rock and Triple H. The Rock was the biggest babyface in the company. He pretty much solidified himself as that one big babyface of the Attitude Era once Austin was out here. Triple H, which we've talked about so many times. This is episode 119 of the Hot Tag. And, 80 of those, we've talked about how Triple H is probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest heel of all time. And 2000, man, George, let's talk Rock, your opinion on The Rock's 2000 run as a babyface and Triple H's 2000 as a heel.
There was nobody hotter than the two of them.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Mhm.
You need to have one of them in that main event spot just for buy rates for pay-per-views. I
Yeah.
mean, it didn't matter because they were. I mean, the WCW is essentially just dead at this point. Like they weren't even a glimmer of competition. This was just um, you had two guys who were basically given the brass ring, so to speak, with Austin being up like, all right, just go through and do what you can, and
Yeah.
they made a shit ton of money in
Yep.
2000. Pay per view, like every pay per view in 2000 was a banger.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
you chalk that up to the guys that you put in. Well, I won't say in charge, but the guys that you got running the flagship while the Golden Goose is nursing his neck. It's like, all right, let's see what these guys can do, and they ran. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a shame Rock eventually went to Hollywood, but
Mhm.
Triple H remained a top heel in that company for several more years.
Yep.
That
Yep.
doesn't just happen.
No, definitely not. No, it
Just-
definitely just doesn't happen. I mean, it has nothing to do with. I mean, at the time, he wasn't even married to Stephanie McMahon at the time.
No.
So this is a guy that had to earn it. And if you're not if you're not doing a good job, Vince is not just going to keep you there, especially in an era where just money was being made and they were so hot. We all talk about 98, 99. Dude, 2000 and 2001 may have been the most profitable the WWF had ever been at that up until that point. And that was without Stone Cold Steve Austin for the majority, literally 90% of 2000. So that speaks volumes to what The Rock and Triple H, even guys like Kurt Angle, were able to accomplish that year.
Mhm.
So The Rock headlined 10 of the 12 pay-per-views in 2000, while Triple H was the main event 8 times. Add in, the return of Steve Austin, a few months back here, as we've already mentioned. He missed just about a year with that neck injury, with that neck fusion surgery. Kurt Angle at this time was the WWF champion. He won the title 2 months earlier at the tail end. Basically was at the tail end of his rookie year, which is
Yeah.
astonishing to even think about what this guy did with all those great white sharks on that roster. This dude just comes in and takes the entire company over by storm, like instantly, which
Look
is
at that.
amazing.
Look at that rookie year. I mean,
I know. Yeah.
undefeated right up. From when he debuted. I mean, yeah, it was 2 months, but he showed up every week on both Raw and SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Undefeated
Yeah.
up into the Royal Rumble. Taz comes in and debuts the Rumble, puts him to sleep, and Kurt's bitching and complaining. No, it was illegal choke and all that. So essentially, Taz ends up getting over because of the fact that people or because Kurt is making a big deal about the loss.
Yeah.
Kurt ends up winning the European title, the Intercontinental title, King of the Ring, and the WWF title by the time he hits his 1 year with the company.
Mm-hmm.
As every major singles title in that company, not including the hardcore title and light heavyweight, which obviously Kurt can't get because he's a grown man.
Yeah, that's
And
correct.
I don't think he held the tag titles either. I don't think he held them until later, but that could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Someone fact check me.
Yeah,
But that's a hell of a rookie year.
it is.
I don't care if you win I don't care if you win the world title, 3 months after your main roster debut. No, like that was a year build,
Mhm.
and what a pop it was when he won that title.
It was just unbelievable. It really was. Also at this time, the Undertaker was still the Undertaker, man. Just an over baby face. I mean, anything Undertaker does was over no matter what. And we already talked about Rikishi at the beginning. He wasn't at the same level as the other 5, but again, he was wrapped up in a very big storyline. So, and he was a reliable veteran to be in this match, and he served his purpose in the end for almost a couple things of what I think the company wanted to accomplish with this match. So, like I said earlier, I'm trying to hold back a sneeze. Had to hold that in. Armageddon 2000 did a strong number. Like I said, 465,000 buys, which is the highest number of pay-per-view buys for any December event in WWE history in terms of pay-per-view. So that's massive. And like I said, over 60,000 more pay-per-view buys than Survivor Series, which was headlined by Austin and Triple H. Crazy how much hype went into this pay-per-view. And clearly WWE did a great job promoting it to get such a massive number in December. So it was just amazing. All right, so here we are, WWF Armageddon from Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center in Birmingham, Alabama, December 10th, the year 2000. Before we get into the matches, man, the poster to Armageddon, they not to be cliche, man, but they don't make them like this anymore. And I'm very hurt by that. What says you?
It just makes me wish for the days when the posters are super creative. And there was actually
Agreed.
art behind them.
Yes, 100%. Agree with you on that one. All right, so the opening package focuses on the six-man Hell in a Cell match featuring the "End Is Near" song, which at the time was terrifying to watch. But it was just so
I
friggin'
forgot
epic.
about it until I saw it. I was like, oh yeah, I love this.
Yeah, amazing. Of course, we got pyro. Signs were just, this is 2000, man. This is where in the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes of the show, you can't see anything but white cardboard in front of you. There was no ramp on the way to the ring. And I guess the reason for that is clearly what happened during the main event. A lot of outside wrestling on top of the cars and the weapons on the side. So it just made it easier for all of those guys. You got JR and the King. They're pushing the Hell in a Cell match being a dangerous match. It's the Devil's Playground and all that good stuff that they always just pump out during every single one of the 87 Hell in a Cell matches we've seen now. A limo is shown arriving with Vince McMahon exiting the limo with the Stooges, baby, the real stars of every show that they were on, Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe. Vince was using a cane to sell his left leg injury at the time. Vince made threats about how the Hell in a Cell match wasn't going to happen. Yeah, you've just promoted it for the past month, but not happening on pay-per-view. And then we get to the first match here. Matt and Jeff Hardy and Lita versus Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, and Perry Saturn. This was, an elimination tag match, and it didn't last super long. I'll tell you that. This whole match lasted a little over 8 minutes. The winner by submission, Dean Malenko taps out Lita. I'm sure in his eyes, wish it would have been more ways than one at the time, but nonetheless, man, look, with all the talent in that ring, and I mean an abundance of talent, plethora, in the words of the great Eric Bischoff, a plethora of talent in the ring. I was disappointed.
Yeah. I went in something else. You got Matt and Jeff Hardy in there. You got Perry Saturn. You got Eddie Guerrero. You got Dean Malenko. You got some real bangers in that ring. And this match left a lot to be desired.
It really did. It did. It bothered me because I'm thinking here starting this match, and we know, this was also an era where the opening match would be D'Lo Brown versus Val Venus, and you're just like, all right, okay. But no, you're getting a match here where literally all of these dudes can just flat out go. So I don't know, man. I gave this, what did I write down here? I gave this 2 stars.
The storyline going into the match was better than the match itself.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Hands down. It was a unique match since it was an intergender as well as an elimination match. The fans, dude, 2000, man, anything the Hardys and Lita did was just 100% over. Didn't matter what it was. But, it was all about, putting over Dean Malenko here. God, and also a wrestler's wrestler, Dean Malenko, how he was selling for
Oh,
Lita.
yeah.
Holy cow. Talk about not giving a shit about, you know, I got to make sure I get my stuff in. I got to make sure I look strong, brother.
Mhm.
But
No, no, no,
this
no.
dude who's a technician to the 10th degree, George Malenko, what he was doing for Lita was amazing.
A consummate professional.
Yeah.
How many people are going to go in that ring and be like, or how many of those boys backstage are thinking like, hey, we're going to put you in a match and you're going to bump for Lita.
Right.
I mean, if you
Right.
didn't agree to stuff like that, then your ass is going down the card.
I agree.
If you go in and you decide to go into business for yourself and not sell, that's
Yeah.
even worse.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the
Yeah.
time people are fighting for spots. So people are going to do whatever they can to make the boss happy so they don't lose their position in the company. But but that's not, Dean Malenko's like, all right, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna do business, like the proper way to do business. Like that's some shit they would have done back in the old WCW. So he's like, yeah, we're gonna do it the right way, you know, in a grown-up company.
Right.
Over on the other side with their dismal ass Starcade buy rate that they had just a week after this.
Yeah.
You would have had it would have been backstage politics after this person over that person or this person. Next thing the match you think you're going to have ends up getting changed last minute, and it's like, oh, it's going to be a
Mhm.
DQ finish or some shit like that. But no, this is
Mhm.
really good, and this is what's even more insane when you think about it. Think about how far we are from the invasion angle and the sale of
Mhm.
WCW. I mean, we're coming up. We'll say we're
3 months?
about 4 months prior to the sale of WCW, or of them at least announcing it on TV.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, most of these guys, like Malenko and Guerrero, were not around for the invasion storyline, and Saturn was barely featured on TV.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. Yeah, you're right. Which is a shame.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle is interviewed in the locker room by Lillian Garcia here. Basically the camera focusing heavily on that WWF title around his waist. Angle said he did beat every nationality you could think of to win his Olympic gold medal, so he's not worried about the guys inside the Hell in a Cell. Angle said he knows that he should not have to be put in such a barbaric match in front of a bunch of inbred hicks. I'm just repeating what he said, ladies and gentlemen. That's
It's Alabama. It's probably pretty close to truth.
the fans booed that. Angle said he's not worried about being made famous because he's already famous as the Olympic gold medalist and a WWF champion. Angle said that Foley is a cold-hearted sadist. Angle said his career won't come to an end, and that after he wins, he'll take a shower, drink 99% fat-free milk, and hop on a plane out of there. It was just so good.
What a hero.
He was just always so great. Let's see here. Let's go to the next match, which was William Regal versus Hardcore Holly for the European champion. Regal comes in as that heel champ, and I guess you could say Hardcore Holly is a babyface. I just feel like he's from Alabama, so he got a nice pop during this match.
Yeah, it's like the biggest pop of his career.
Yeah, thankfully it was the only pop of his career. So, winner by pinfall after 5 minutes, even in the hometown, baby. William Regal gets the pin. I thought it wasn't bad. I actually rated this higher than the opening match. Kill me for that, but yeah, I have this rated just a tad above that first match. I always liked anything. I enjoyed anything William Regal did. He was an entertaining act that was always slotted in that mid card. I think he's still the best GM of all time. It was a solid match. It was good, stiff work. What did you think?
You give them like another 5 minutes or so, that's easily 4 to 5 star match.
I think I agree. I
can sit here. I can sit here and I can bash Hardcore Holly till the cows come home.
Yeah.
But facts are facts. The dude was solid in between the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
And one of the best drop kicks in the business. Hands fucking down.
And you don't hang around the business as long as he did if you're not good enough.
No.
I mean, that's just the way it is, right?
And he has bad gimmick after bad gimmick, but
yeah,
this dude just he was so good working that they were like, well, we can't just get rid of him. We'll just
Right.
find something else for him.
Right. Um, absolutely agree. A clip was shown from SmackDown 3 days earlier when Kurt Angle attacked Rikishi with WWF title to show that, of course, there's no allies in this match. Rikishi's then interviewed by Kevin Kelly, the guy who I think his name was Hermie, according to The Rock, right?
Mhm.
The things you remember. Kelly asked if Triple H would turn on Rikishi. That led to Rikishi saying that he has sacrificed his body for a chance at the WWF title. Rikishi said that any man that tries to stop him from becoming a champion will find out what he's willing to sacrifice. Murder. Rikishi said he'll sacrifice each and every one of them. It's always good to talk about, murder on a program.
He did try to murder somebody a year prior, Chris.
That is correct, but now he's using words. Now that's emphatic.
And a month prior, Stone Cold tried to murder Triple H.
Yeah, I know.
Listen,
2000 was the year of manslaughter.
Listen, if there's not a little bit of if there isn't just a little bit of that threat of murder in your wrestling, are you even watching the Attitude Era?
Are you even paying attention?
It's like you're either watching the Attitude Era from 2000 or AEW now.
Next up, we got Val Venus versus China. Val Venus is not the Val Venus that we all came to know and love.
Not.
Yeah. He's a heel coming in here. China was clearly, obviously, the baby face. Right the Censor did not like China posing in Playboy. So there's your story. That's it right there. Pose in Playboy, Right the Censor's coming after you.
That's the storyline. That's how simple this storyline is.
Exactly. Yeah. Just great stuff. But Val Venus gets to win after 5 minutes, but credit again, just like I'm going to give credit to Dean Malenko in that opening match with Lita, credit to Val for, basically allowing China to get the majority of the offense in this win. What did you think of this one?
China always worked well with the guys.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me long for it because I'm sitting there, I'm watching that match, watching China and Val just kind of go at it. And I'm like, Rhea Ripley could do this shit now with the guys.
Yeah. China's not like most girls.
Hate your face. Hate everything about you. But, there's no reason why we can't go back to that now. Yeah. No, I'm not saying all the time, but every once in a while,
Yeah.
You got someone like Rhea who can go with anybody.
Yeah.
Just like go at it. And here's something that confused me about Val Venus and Right to Censor. Why didn't he change his name?
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Even the Godfather became the Good Father.
Yeah.
Why couldn't Val just hey, this is my name clearly is meant to be a sexual name. Let me go to something stupid like Sean Morley.
Like my real name. That's funny. So we get a clip is shown from No Way Out from 2000 when Cactus Jack lit a 2x4 piece of wood on fire and hit Triple H with it while they were on top of the Hell in a Cell structure. So they're just kind of showing us a couple of the past massive moments from some recent Hell in a Cell matches here, and that was wild as well. Attempted multiple times. There was a backstage scene with Stephanie McMahon talking to Vince, who says he was hurting physically and emotionally. He says he didn't want to talk about his divorce. Stephanie said he was afraid for Triple H. She was afraid for Triple H, rather. And she said that Hunter could barely walk after the Hell in a Cell against Foley. Vince complained about Foley and said he was going to put a stop to this right now. Then we get to an Undertaker interview that was taped earlier in the day with Kevin Kelly. In the ring, Undertaker said that this is a time for reckoning, saying that he has visions of things he has done to men inside the cell. Taker said that this cell even scars himself because it brings out a side of him that is more animal than it is human, and that he craved grinding a man's face against the steel, and all that's left is blood. Taker talked about sending Shawn Michaels into the cell, that he bled and bled, and the more he bled, the more he wanted him to bleed. Undertaker said that he didn't want to reach down and help him up when Shawn was on the side of the cell, which led to Shawn's, big bump through the table. Talked about when he chokeslammed Mick Foley off the cage and through the cell. Well, Mick Foley kind of ran off the cage, but nonetheless, he also semantics, right? Taker, said that the scariest part is that he liked it, while saying that this is a side that made Mick Foley famous and made Shawn Michaels even more famous. Taker said the only thing to wonder about is who he's going to make famous tonight. I thought it was a promo, George, that you just never really saw. This was such an effective way, I think, of just showing how dangerous Taker is inside of these matches. And I think when I watched it a couple days ago again, I felt like, man, WWF was really planting the seed here that Taker could be the guy that walks out as a WWF champion right at the end of this night. After watching that, what was your thoughts on that promo? And did you think maybe that promo, they went to a lot of lengths in terms of production for this promo, and it was a long one. Did it kind of put the seed in your head like, man, Taker might walk out with this?
Yeah, man, it kind of made me think that maybe this is what the build is going to be. Put the belt on Taker and just kind of see where it goes from there. But did you notice during the promo he got the chain of events wrong?
He did. He definitely got the chain of events wrong.
He talked about chokeslamming first and then throwing him off the cage. It's like, were you the one who left that match with the concussion?
That's correct. He was. In his eyes, he was the one that left.
Yeah, he's like, I'm the victim. I'm the one who got chokeslammed by Terry Funk and had his shoes get knocked off.
It makes me laugh whenever I watch that and I see a shoeless Terry Funk walking around. It's hilarious.
Like, he takes the chokeslam and then his shoes just fly. It's like, I don't even know how that's possible, but it made me feel like I don't ever want to get chokeslammed by the Undertaker because my body will just shatter.
It'll just fall. Everything will fall off.
Good. I can use some new ones.
Vince McMahon is out. A promo in the middle of a pay-per-view live, which was something that started to happen more and more during the McMahon-Helmsley era. He walks out to the ring. Vince had, of course, the Stooges. He said he meant every word he said on last week's SmackDown, claimed that he meant it when he said that he has given the fans his life, and he meant it when he told his wife, Linda, that he wants a divorce. Fans, I've given you everything. Linda, I want a divorce. Man, what an analogy.
Fans, I'm giving you everything. Linda, I'm giving you half of everything.
Vince said that Linda was never good enough for him, and she never will be. Boy, foreshadowing.
You worked yourself into a shoot, brother.
He worked himself into a big shoot. Vince said that his concern for their welfare of all those in the Hell in a Cell match had been rebuked by Mick Foley. The fans, of course, begin to chant "A-hole" at Vince McMahon. Vince said that he has his heart in his hand, not as Vince McMahon, the owner of WWF, or a certified billionaire. He's simply a compassionate humanitarian, right? That's Vince McMahon. Yeah, that's what he is.
That sounds like Vince.
He sounds exactly like the human being. Vince asked the fans to contemplate the results of this Hell in a Cell match. He wants 5 seconds of silence, which led to Vince was just so good. He wanted people to join him by standing up to support him against the Hell in a Cell match taking place. And then you hear Vince yelling, "Damn it, I said stand up." Just so good. Vince said that after the Hell in a Cell match is over, not only will it be on Mick Foley's conscience, but it will be on each and every one of our conscience as well. I thought the promo was good, but this is a pay-per-view, man. Like, everyone's already bought the show. Like, everyone's already here. What was the necessity of this?
It's not like people are going to change channels all of a sudden. And
I know, you just paid for it.
We're not flipping back and forth from the pay-per-view to Nitro. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, this was in an era,
we're already
dude,
there,
where,
Vince. You already have our money.
I know. Like, this is in an era, too, man. Like, where Raw and SmackDown were just... an abundance of promos. I just didn't think I really needed this. Could have been a very quick backstage segment like before from Vince, and then we get on to the next. But whatever.
I'll
Next,
tell you one thing. Vince had that crowd just eating out of his hand. It was great. Oh,
he really did. He did have that for sure. Next up here is last man standing match: Kane versus Jericho. By the way, this is like my favorite Kane. The outfit,
how jacked was this motherfucker
dude,
right now?
Dude, just an absolute mutant of a man.
Not just because he was burned alive and
Oh yeah,
true. All that, but
yeah, exactly. Kane comes in as the monster heel. The feud started when Jericho spilled coffee on Kane. Now that's a way to really get this party started.
That's the storyline.
It is. I mean, Kane was at this point in his life was tired of being burned, so he was just pissed off. So this set Kane off since Kane's history as the character.
He got triggered.
He did. He definitely got triggered. This was Jericho's second last man standing match in 5 months, where he had one against Triple H where he lost at July's Fully Loaded pay-per-view. This match got 17 minutes, dude. The winner's Chris Jericho. If this match was like 12, it would have been 4 stars. But man, that additional 5 or so minutes really hurt this match because it dragged at certain points. And I was really mad because when I saw this pay-per-view, I saw the card. I'm like, I remember the last man standing match with Kane and Jericho. I was like, I can't wait to watch this again. And I looked at the timer and I'm thinking, dude, like we're like 13, 14 minutes in. I was like, God, this is lagging here. If this was a 10 to 11 minute match, boy, give me that all day. Oh, yeah. What was your thoughts on this? You think the time really hurt it?
The time hurt it, and I'll tell you what bothered me then is still the same thing that bothers me now. It was the ending.
Yeah.
Where Kane was like buried under those barrels, but all those barrels were like glued together. And when they went over, they clearly hit like a table that was behind it. And it's like, that didn't. He could just crawl out, but
that was that spot you can tell was made for the live audience, not the television audience. Yeah.
But like because like he's pushing him over, it's like even the barrels on top should at least topple a little bit. But it's like, and then I'm looking, I'm like, that's right. Then like it came back to me, and I'm like, is this where like the whole thing? And then it fell over, and I'm like, he's just ducked down behind that. He's fine.
And at the end of the day, I again, this is the cynic in me now. And George, you're not surprised, but you'll laugh at this because I know you will, and you will laugh. This is a 17-minute match that came from spilling coffee on somebody. This is why we're seeing this.
Just good show, pal.
Yeah, I can't wait to come over to your house next time we see each other. I'm going to fucking spill coffee all over you and see what happens. You'll just make me just go to Tim Hortons and buy you another one.
All right. That's fine then. Feud over. We don't need to have a last man standing match.
Exactly. We don't. See?
Here's the thing though. With this match, I was like, this is where Kane throws Jericho through the window. And then I saw it in the package. I was like, oh, that was an episode of like Raw or SmackDown. I thought that happened in this match.
I thought so too. Yeah.
But
good point.
Same storyline, just
right.
Different day.
Different day. Same story, different day. We get an appearance from Shawn Michaels at WWF New York, who he was still retired. You don't say. Shawn talked about the first Hell in a Cell match that he was in and said, with 6 guys in this match, he has no idea what's going to happen. Shawn said this match was tailor-made for The Undertaker. And it's true because Undertaker is a different man in that kind of match. And then the promo just ended. On to the next thing.
Well, Jim Ross said he liked his hat.
Oh, that was very nice of him.
Because he was also wearing a black cowboy hat. Probably one of JR's.
Probably.
Wasn't Shawn back at WWF New York the next month for the Royal Rumble?
That's correct.
He was just there all the time.
That was funny. They show some Birmingham Bolts XFL players, not your
Ooh.
current Dwayne Johnson XFL, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm.
This was prime Vince McMahon's XFL. Boy, do I hope all of them dudes saved
This
all of their pennies.
this was no kickoff XFL. This was the balls in the 50-yard line, and two guys are going to run at it and see who gets it first.
Oh, jeez. So let's see here.
Oh,
All
and
right.
and Taker during his promo was wearing a New York, New Jersey Hitman hat.
I didn't notice that. I got to look back at that.
So I looked at him like, what hat is he wearing? I'm like, that's a logo for the New York, New Jersey Hitmen.
Whatever those dudes got for free, they didn't care. Up next is a fatal four-way for the WWF Tag Team Championship. Right to censor, which is the Good Father and the five-star worker himself, Bull Buchanan, with Steven Richards versus Edge and Christian versus Road Dogg and K Quick, and against the Dudley Boys. Shockingly, Right to Censor coming in as the tag team champions. Edge and Christian are the heels. And then, obviously K Quick, who's R-Truth, and Road Dogg are the baby faces. And of course, the Dudley Boys this time were the baby faces. I'm starting to, I thought at this point that maybe the Kane and Jericho match went a little too long. So this match was under 10 minutes, with Edge and Christian, getting the pinfall and becoming the new tag team champs. Dude, this was just chaos. Like it was like it just felt like there was no story here. It was, let's just get to Edge and Christian become the champions. What was your thought?
It was a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a good match. I'm not saying it's like a 1, but there was no storyline. There was just, hey, here's 4 tag teams. But we don't want Right to Censor to get pinned, so let's just put somebody else in there. It was just, and I told you this in text message. I didn't like the tag team of Road Dogg and K Quick, R-Truth.
I did not either.
I'm call him fucking R-Truth. That's his name. I didn't like tag team between R-Truth and Road Dogg. It felt like they had no chemistry together, except for the fact that they can sort of rap together. I mean, they would get better in TNA when they were the 3 Live Crew with Conan. Like that worked. Like that worked a lot better than what this did.
Right.
Like we weren't ready for rapping R-Truth in 2000.
Yeah. No, we were not. He wasn't ready for himself in 2000.
No.
By the way, it's being reported that Charlotte apparently has suffered a torn ACL and will miss a while, probably at least 6 to 9 months.
Oh no.
And also AJ Styles returned in the main event of SmackDown, and he looks like to be on the same stuff as Randy Orton, because holy cow, he looks just jacked to the gills. Yeah, like if you look at him, dude, he looks like a legit lumberjack. So that's cool to see AJ back. It's always great to see that dude back. So it's definitely bulking season for guys like Orton and Styles, however they're doing it. So yeah, it's just, again, it was just chaos for me. I will say what did stand out to me was the popularity of the Dudleys. I mean, whatever they did, the crowd was just eating it up. Whatever they did, man, they were just so over at this time. But still, at the end of the day, man, Edge and Christian becoming the tag team champions for a 4th time. So
that end did nothing for me.
It did nothing. It was just like, all right.
The end of the match was just, it was weird. Like, it felt like the match was going on and then a finish and then that was it. I mean, which is essentially what matches are, but there was no build to the end. There was no build to get to the final note. It was just, Christian snuck in and gave the unprettier to Devon, which I don't know why the referee had to be distracted. It was a fatal 4-way tag team match. There's no disqualification anyway. What are you actually keeping Edge out of the ring for? Or what are you distracting the ref for?
Mhm.
Do whatever you want.
Yep, agreed. Also, just so everybody know, AJ Styles turned heel. He took out LA Knight when he was in the ring with Randy Orton. He didn't do anything to Randy Orton, but he walked out and walked past the bloodline to end the show. So it's always good to see LA Knight's push completely get derailed.
Heel AJ. Oh,
Yeah, give me heel AJ
hey,
all the time.
Hey, say what you want about a push getting derailed, because I know you hate LA Knight because you don't like anything fun.
I don't dislike LA Knight. I just don't think he's anything special.
But let me tell you something. A feud between AJ Styles and LA Knight. That's a 5-star match in of itself.
Yeah, all I want is LA Knight to get a different finish. Other than that, he's fine. That finish is awful.
A lot of the finishes nowadays are not good.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like 5 people have the Shining Wizard. It's like, can you guys stop?
I feel like 77 people have the super kick.
Yeah, but nobody gets pinned after it. It's just a transition move.
So
like
awful.
There's a lot of moves now. I'm looking at them. I'm like, how are these ending matches?
Yeah, I know. Remember when the DDT meant something?
Nobody does.
Calm down, Chris. You're showing your age. You're showing your age.
Chris, well, remember when leg drops ended matches? Yeah, thanks, Hogan.
Yeah, your 10 back surgeries. Thank you.
Yeah. He's not having a match of 70. We thank you.
Yeah, take notes, Flair, you clown. Triple H was shown warming up with storyline with his wife, in storylines at the time, not just yet in real life. Stephanie McMahon talking about the Hell in a Cell. Hunter said that the WWF Championship means everything to him. Said it didn't matter if he had to put his body on the line and that nobody is going to stop him. And he mentioned all the guys saying that nobody can stop him getting back to being WWF champion. And then we get to an Intercontinental Championship match that I very much enjoyed. The one Billy Gunn, not Mr. Ass or Badass Billy Gunn. It's the one Billy Gunn versus Chris Benoit. So this got 10 minutes, man. And Chris Benoit becomes the new Intercontinental Champion. I enjoyed it. I gave it 2.5 stars because, look, I've said this 100 times. Anytime Chris Benoit was in a match, I enjoyed it because I will forever just love the in-the-ring work, not outside the ring work. I love the in-the-ring work of Chris Benoit. So, again, and also, this is another match where I want to remind people how massive Billy Gunn was as a human being. Like, Billy Gunn is 6'5", like all 6'5". What did you think of this one here, of the one Billy Gunn against Chris Benoit?
Well, I love the one Billy Gunn.
Me too.
What a gimmick. It was great.
Yeah.
Like, I remember he lost the ability to call himself Mr. Ass because he lost a match against Right the Censor.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were like, oh, you have ass in your name. Can't have that. You have to change your name. Like the one Billy Gunn, it worked. And his song wasn't bad either. It was just as good.
I like the song too.
It's no, I'm an ass man, but it's
not,
really
not, yeah.
But I mean,
it's definitely not that.
Billy Gunn's a massive person, and he still is. He still looks that way now, 23 years later. Like, Billy Gunn has kept himself in shape.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he has, again, also the good stuff. Good for him. And he works his ass off for it. And it's super cool and I hate what he's doing. Anything that he's doing in the other company, I hate every time I see it. But good for him for being in that kind of shape and still being able to do what he can do. I really wish he was doing something in the Performance Center, but
he's got that chronic asthma too, so he can only work so long in matches. Otherwise, he probably would have been up in the main event if he could work.
He absolutely would have been a main event guy if he was able to go longer than 10 or 12 minutes. Mm-hmm. I mean, he also couldn't cut a promo, but that could have, you can get by that.
Give him a manager.
Exactly. You can always give him a mic. So Steve Austin's was interviewed earlier in the day by JR. It began with JR putting over the danger of a Hell in a Cell. Austin said that he didn't sleep last night because he just wants to get the damn match started. Austin said the match will be flat out brutality. Austin's setting himself up to win the WWF Championship, but so is everybody else. Austin wants to get the match started, whip someone's ass, and that's all he's got to say about that. So short, to the point, factual. That was Stone Cold always. And then we get to the women's championship match. Ivory versus Molly Holly versus Trish Stratus. This match was done at 2:12. I don't know why it was cut short. It didn't look like there was any kind of injury anywhere, but the match was done. Ivory gets a quick roll-up pin, and that's it. Like, do you think they were just short on time here?
Bad match. They cut it short because they're like, all right, this means nothing. Let's just get this through.
Yeah, I just didn't understand why it was only 2 minutes because it didn't. I mean, it was a triple threat match for the women's championship. I thought it would get a little bit longer than 2 minutes, but look, I'm not complaining
Triple threat
about
match
it.
for the women's title in 2000.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. Sunday Night Heat, baby. So The Rock is interviewed backstage by Kevin Kelly, who asked if he was prepared. So Rock did his finally routine, of course, to get that big Birmingham pop. Rock said if he has to bleed from every single pore in his body to become champion, he will. Said he doesn't know whose career will end or who will be made famous. Rock said he'll sweat, bleed, and he'll whoop all their candy asses. Rock said he'll walk straight into hell and walk out as champion. Great. It was a really good Rock promo. He didn't make the jokes, though. And I will say that. Like, it was intense, Dwayne. It wasn't poking fun at anybody. It wasn't looking at Kevin Kelly, making fun of him. It was like, look, recognizing the situation, 6-man Hell in a Cell, WWF Championship on the line. This was a promo where I thought The Rock knew the assignment in his head. And he goes, you know what? I'm going to show you that I can cut a serious promo too. And I thought it was a damn good promo.
Yeah. Rock. Yeah. I mean, it also puts over the severity of the match. If The Rock ain't cutting jokes and cutting people down and he's all about business, then you know this match is going to be one to watch.
I agree. Let's see. The Hell in a Cell structure is getting lowered around the ring with JR and Ross talking. JR and Ross, yeah. Easy for me to say. With JR and Lawler talking about how dangerous this kind of match is. JR made it very clear that the pinfall had to take place inside the ring. Triple H makes his entrance with the announcers mentioning that Hunter ended Mick Foley's career in earlier in the year at No Way Out inside the Hell in a Cell. Rikishi comes out next with not really any reaction whatsoever. Lawler did point out that Rikishi was the only man in the match that had never been a champion, never been a WWF champion in his career. Kurt Angle, again, George, you and I talked about this. Kurt Angle comes out third as the WWF champion. This threw me off. Like, if watching this match again, right? And when I watch these pay-per-views over again, I act like I'm watching them almost for the first time. And then when I'm done, I look back like, what would my thought have been before? Kurt Angle coming out third, in my head, seeming, oh, he's definitely not the champion after tonight. Like, in my mind, it's no, there's no way. There's just no way he's a champion after tonight. What was your thoughts?
My thought process wasn't that he was going to lose title. It was that he came out third. I'm like, but the champions usually come out last. But then as I'm thinking about it, yeah, he's not going to come out after Stone Cold. Stone Cold's getting that last entrance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, I guess. I should have probably thought about that more.
Although now I'm thinking about it, they had all the heels come out first and then the faces.
Is that what they did?
Because it was Triple H, Rikishi, Angle, and then Taker, Rock, Austin.
Taker, Rock, Austin. Yeah, you're right.
Like,
didn't even think about that.
I just now thought of it.
Mm-hmm. Good call. Good call there.
Maybe that was done to prevent any fighting from before everybody got in the ring. Because you couldn't have Triple H in the ring and then The Rock or Austin in the ring with him at the same time. Rikishi couldn't have been there with The Rock at the same time. It was a whole thing. So I guess it had to be done the way it was for fucking whatever. I don't know.
Forever, whatever. That's the way Vince wanted it, my friend.
Yeah.
That's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yes.
Angle takes a couple deep breaths, staring at the cage before he enters the cell. To sell the idea that he was nervous about it. So he walked to the side of it. Most of the referees in WWE were around the ring to try to keep the wrestlers apart. The Undertaker is up next as he walked out of the ring. Obviously, there was no point to drive the motorcycle out, or else he would have went right through the cell. So he comes out wearing a Dead Man Inc. shirt, which I loved at the time. The Rock gets a mega pop on his way. He gets down to that ring quickly, does, with purpose. He does his poses on the side. Angle still outside of the cage as The Rock does his poses. And then, of course, dude, when that glass breaks, like the place just, goes banana, in the words of Pat Patterson. Dude, they just went absolutely nuts for Austin, man. Walks down to the ring, acts like he's going to go through the door, pivots, takes a quick right, and goes right after Kurt on the side. And somehow, without the final two guys in the ring, the bell rings.
Yeah.
The match starts, and there's still two guys on the outside of the ring.
It was like the second they touched, it's like, all right, guys, the match started.
It was so funny. So much shit happens in this match. And at the end, dude, after 38 minutes, Kurt Angle retains the WWF title. Your thoughts on the match? What are some of your favorite spots?
Stone Cold just grinding Triple H's face in the cage, but hitting all four sides of the cage doing it. I'm like, this is fun. Like, it made me mad. I'm like,
this is fun.
This is fun. Like this, like it reminds me like why I love this era, because it was just so good. Everybody going up to the top of the cage at one point. I'm like, that shit's breaking at somewhere, and someone's falling through.
Yep.
Vince and the Stooges coming down with the big truck that had the kennel bedding in the back of it to tear down the cell, and Foley coming out and giving Vince a little love tap there. And
gotta love it.
Big ass Rikishi climbing the cage. As soon as I saw Rikishi going up, I remember when he went up the cage, I'm like, oh, he's going down.
I did not think that, but I'm just
I'm like, it's gonna be him, because even if you look at it now, like just kind of through like a process elimination, The Rock ain't taking that bump. He's too high profile.
No, Austin definitely taking
just
that bump.
came back from neck surgery.
Right,
he ain't doing it. Taker, no, he throws you.
Yeah.
Triple H, top guy, you can't worry about him getting hurt. Same thing with Angle, he's champ. So, yeah.
It's a good point.
Fuck out of here, Rikishi. Like, oh, you chokeslammed Rikishi off. I'm like, it looked like he pushed him.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you knew once Vince came out with that truck full of hay, it's like, okay, who's coming off? who's going through this thing or on top of this thing?
I think it was Taker that hit a chair shot on Angle on the top of the cell.
Oh my God.
I was like, he swung it, and as soon as it connected, I was like, my teeth rattled.
Yeah, he killed him.
Yeah. I don't know how this man won the match when Taker literally gave him brain cancer with that hit.
Yeah, I mean, damn near close, my friend. Damn near close. Yeah, some of my favorite spots, of course, is that that choke slam is really cool. And then at the end of that choke slam, they pan to the middle of the ring where all the guys were looking at the spot in shock. That was really cool. I also really enjoyed the spots on top of the ramp. I loved when Austin did a slingshot on Triple H, where he lands on top of the car and then like slides off the car. Just Triple H, I think I love. Out of anything that Triple H ever did, I've always loved anything when he sold.
He basically jumped after the slingshot, so you didn't need to do all that. But I
know it was just so good. Angle's head being thrown through the car window, I believe, by the Undertaker was pretty cool too. And I thought the finish was great. The finish was so much fun. It's one of those endings, and it reminds me of the Backlash 2004 ending, where it's like they all hit their finishers, but like anyone can win at any moment. And it ended up being, Sean super kicks John Cena onto a laid out edge, and Cena gets the win. When it gets to the end of this match, man, it's like, wow, anybody can just end up winning this thing. And then there's Kurt Angle, he's in the right place at the right time. And he crawls over to the Rock, covers the Rock, and gets the 1, 2, 3. This was right after the Rock takes a stunner from Austin. So again, Rock takes that stunner from Austin. So you're planting a seed there a little bit. You can go somewhere with that. But man, were you shocked at the end to see Kurt Angle's hand raised?
I was shocked that I was shocked that Kurt won the match, because I'm like, there's no way because Kurt was always finding a way to get out of matches.
Yeah.
After he won the title at No Mercy, Survivor Series, he had his brother Eric show up, to confuse the Undertaker. So the Undertaker thought he was pinning Kurt Angle, but it really wasn't him. And then, Kurt was stealing wins as a heel. So we thought, when he's hell, there's no way to steal a win. But then, hey, all he did was just kind of get a hand on the Rock. That's all it took. Mm-hmm. I also like how after Undertaker gave Rikishi that choke slam, he just stayed on top of the cell.
Mm-hmm.
It took a lot out of him, and he just was like, all right, I'm napping for the rest of this match. It's like, all right, nobody bother him. He's good.
Yeah.
Dead man sleeping.
Yeah, dead man sleeping. Also, just to confirm, WWE has confirmed it that Charlotte Flair will be out 9 months due to a knee injury, which basically tells me one thing: Sasha Banks will be in the Royal Rumble. Just letting you all know that. Mark it down here.
How does that tell you that?
Because now it's like they need that star power now.
Yeah,
they need that. They need it. Because I'm sure Charlotte was going to be a very important piece leading into the Rumble through WrestleMania, regardless of what she was doing. So you need that star power back, in my opinion. And I think Sasha, regardless of the wackiness that she is, she's a superstar. So I would look forward to that. So what do you give this match overall? Every guy in this match bleeds except for Rikishi, but Rikishi got out of cutting his forehead open because he takes a fall from 30 feet in the air off the top of a cell. So he still takes the biggest bump of the night. What was your overall thoughts on this? Did it work in your head? Was it too much of a car crash, or did it work?
It worked for the time. It wouldn't work now.
And why do you not think it would work today?
Because now it would have been all about the spots.
Oh, good point. You're right.
Nobody would have cared about nobody would have cared about the storylines going in, because you had 3 different storylines basically going on at the same time to culminate inside this feud. You had the feud between Taker and Angle, between Rikishi and Rock, and between Stone Cold and Triple H. So you had 3 feuds all coming together in one match. I mean, it wasn't like produced right just because there was so much going on. But this was like uncharted ground for them, because having a multi-man Hell in a Cell like this is not something that was done before. I mean, you have multi-man cage match. The cage matches, you can leave the ring and the match, you leave the cage and the match ends. Hell in a Cell, you got to get the pinfall inside. Different, there's different things going on at the same time. Probably not enough real actual camera operators to catch everything. Whereas now you get a War Games match, you basically have everything together inside that.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody, or like in the other company, when they do like a blood and guts match, once again, they don't know what they're doing, but you can follow the action as it's going on. Granted, the camera cuts are horrendous because the cameras are catching shit that we shouldn't be seeing on TV, like someone pulling a blade out of their boot. Like,
you could see the entire scene of the Rock bleeding. You could see everything. You could see the ref handing him the blade.
Yeah.
You could see the Rock fixing the blade in its finger. And then as soon as it gets pedigreed on top of the car, you see him doing it. I'm like, after the pedigree, that's when you just turn around, cameraman, and find something else.
Yeah. I mean,
But
but this was a dry run for the Elimination Chamber that was going
you're
to
right.
show up
That's
2 years
really,
later.
yep, great point. That's exactly what that was. And
But maybe having that in the chamber format works better because then you don't have all 6 guys going in at one shot.
right,
Rare in an elimination chamber, you have all 6 guys in at the same time. Usually someone's getting pinned and out of there by the time, all of the pods are opened.
right,
But
right.
dang, I mean, the productions are better now, but you would never get 3 storylines culminating in one match nowadays.
I agree. What do you give this match out of 5 stars?
Out of 5, probably about 3.5.
Wow, I gave it a 4.5.
I mean,
Wow.
it because, like you said, it's the little things like that. Like you see The Rock getting the blade, and just the bad angles,
point,
and there was
yeah.
just so much going on that you couldn't follow everything.
Mhm.
You can follow it now, but now, like I said, if you do it now it's all about the spots. Now it's all right. Who's going off the cage? What weapons are going to be introduced? Who's going to be hitting the crate? Or it'd be Randy Orton. Who how's he hitting an RKO or this side or the other? It'd be all about the fans looking
Mhm.
for the spots, not invested in the storyline. We were invested in the storylines 20 years ago. Now nobody gives a shit. Just give me the spot.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, I give this match 4.5. I mean, look, those things bother me, but I guess what really helps me is one, I guess the fact that I watch this a lot and it keeps me coming back to it. So I give it that 4.5. Just probably for its rewatch value. And the fact that it was just really cool seeing all these stars in the ring at the same time and probably the peak of that era. All of these guys, most of these guys are heavily involved in the WWF title scene in the coming months. Austin wins the Rumble. Angle was able to beat Triple H to keep the title. Triple H beats Austin in that 2 to 3 stages of Hell match at No Way Out in 2001, which I recommend everyone to go watch. Um, 3 stages of Hell, and then where Rock also beat Angle for the WWE title. And again, that led to Austin turning heel and beating The Rock at WrestleMania 17 in the main event. So a lot of things were coming up after this pay-per-view, man. But out of 10, what do you give this match?
The match of the pay-per-view.
I'm sorry, the pay-per-view.
Out of 10, probably about a 6.5 to a 7.
Okay. I'm at a
Because
6.5.
a,
6.
a lot of this was just, let's get to the Hell in a Cell match.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I even
did
wrote
like the Intercontinental title match. I thought that was really good. And
yeah.
the time
Uh,
that Regal and Hardcore Holly were given, they made the most of it.
Yeah. I agree. And I wrote if there was no Hell in a Cell, it was a 3 out of 10 pay-per-view. And I believe overall, even with the Hell in a Cell, it was one of the worst pay-per-views of 2000 for the WWF. And you're right. It's because everything else around it felt just like filler. Like, let's just get to the Hell in a Cell. That's the only reason why these people are here. And that was accurate because you have 6 of your main event stars in one match. How can you possibly build a pay-per-view outside of that?
Yeah.
And we all know the WWF was always a main event business. They were so great at the main event, and their undercard suffered a lot. That's why WCW was so good for a long time, because that undercard was spectacular. And they just didn't know how to do main events. WWF was always, look, their undercard wasn't great, but damn, when they got to that main event, they knew exactly what they were doing, and they could tell stories. They knew how to do finishes. So yeah, without the Hell in a Cell, this would have been a 2 or a 3. With the Hell in a Cell, I still think it's a 6, but I still think overall one of, if not the worst pay-per-view for the WWF in 2000. So before we get out of here, George, what are we going to be covering next week before the Christmas holiday?
Next week, Chris, I made the decision. because you were like, hey, pick an Armageddon and we'll do it since we're in December. And I said, okay. And then I said no,
Yep. He
because
turned heel on me.
I turned heel in a swerve. Rather than give you Armageddon 2000, I decided to give you all Vengeance 2001, which still took place in December.
That is
They
correct.
changed the name from Armageddon to Vengeance because 3 months prior to this pay-per-view, New York City skyline got changed permanently.
That's correct. That changed a lot of things. Yes.
So rather than go with a Doomsday type pay-per-view name, they were like, all right, let's change this to something a little less Doomsday, but still not exactly the best when you actually think about it. But whatever. Pay-per-view names are pay-per-view names. It didn't really matter. But
Right.
that night was a very important night in wrestling.
Yeah, it definitely was.
It started Chris Jericho on this trend of saying the same thing for the next 20 years about what he could accomplish in one night.
Mm-hmm. Agreed, man. So we will be doing Vengeance 2001 next week. I'm just very much looking forward to covering that pay-per-view. It's going to be really cool to talk about one of the biggest shocks in the company history, man. And that's Chris Jericho becoming the very first undisputed WWF or the undisputed World Heavyweight Champion, beating The Rock and Austin in the same night. And guess what? 22 years later, Jericho will still remind you of that.
He'll remind you every chance he gets. Don't get it wrong.
Oh yeah, don't get it twisted.
Don't you get it twisted.
All right. So for George Rogers, I am Chris C. Francesco. Follow us at the Hot Tag Podcast on Instagram. Check us out again on YouTube at Hot Tag Wrestling. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we have a fun show for you next week. We'll take a week off for the Christmas holiday, and it is right into Royal Rumble season and straight through for the road to WrestleMania here on the Hot Tag Show, and we are just so excited for that. So thank you guys.
Going to be a lot of sign pointing coming up.
Oh, a lot of sign pointing. Next week, also, we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on currently with the WWE, since we are getting into Elimination Chamber, the Royal Rumble season. We got a couple things already happening. So, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more of the current stuff next week. So, all right, buddy, have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll catch you guys down the road. Have a good one. Bye-bye.